All right, sorry about that, everybody. Um, we just had a little issue, but I took care of this. All right, so we're perfect now. Sorry about that, Mark. I don't know what happened, but we should be all set and ready to go. So,
Right on.
all right, and I can hear you pretty good. So that's good. Um, so, anyways, I'm sorry. We got cut off right at the time where I forget what I was even saying, man. So let's just start over really quick. You want to just
No
give
problem.
everybody just a quick background of yourself and, maybe just tell us what got you involved in, activism in a whole and then, what led you up to starting to do documentaries?
Sure. Um, well, all this stuff started for me pretty much when I started looking into JFK's assassination and 9/11 and stuff like that. I had a few friends who kind of pointed it out to me, that there was some things that I should really pay attention to and look into. So I did that, and after checking some things out, I really started putting some pieces of the puzzle together essentially, and became really interested in learning more. So it became eventually a quest of knowledge, and I had some skills in making videos, and I was a musician at the time and stuff like that. So I kind of just pieced it together, you know what I mean, and just and put my skills to making documentaries, and then eventually I met Harry Link along the way, who asked me to do a show on the Truth Broadcast Network. So that's what got me uh, doing live broadcasts and stuff like that on top of the documentaries. So it's been quite a journey learning about all this stuff for sure.
Yeah, it definitely can be a journey. I know for myself, it's been a long one, and it's always cool to hear, where people came from, how they got involved and things like this. And I know you actually you're involved with music. You were before you were, completely awake. Were you just like completely just full blown only focusing on that? Is that basically how you were? Because I know that's basically kind of how I was before I woke up.
Yeah, totally. I was really focused on music. Actually, I was really involved in music. I ran my own record label. I was signing bands. I signed one from Italy, a lot of Canadian bands as well. And I was also a tour manager and a tour booker. So I was doing work visas for bands, like foreign worker visas, essentially getting them across the borders, doing all the paperwork, filling out that kind of stuff, and got ensnared within the government paperwork trail and paying fees for this and that just to play music and stuff. So it was really a learning process, and it did take up a lot of my time to do all that stuff. So I didn't have time really to research into anything. And at the time too, I guess when I was doing some of the tours, I was awake and I actually had a couple documentaries out and stuff like that. But I wasn't doing it as much. It wasn't a full time thing at the time. I was kind of like uh, dividing my time to learning and studying and doing film work, and then the music stuff is definitely taking up a lot of my time. So I was definitely involved with music before I even wake up woke up. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, and it's I see like at least personally I found it I guess I don't know like cuz either way regardless of how you look at it it's kind of like whether you're making a documentary or making music it's still in a way an art form, you know what I'm saying? Except I feel like, this the form of activism like hosting the show and things like this, doing things like this, it feels like it's more, it feels like you almost get more out of it even though you might not necessarily get the monetary gain that you would making music. Like it personally I feel at least it's more gratifying.
yeah, definitely. I'd rather make no money at all and learn about good stuff and try to help the world and people of the world rather than making a profit playing music. It was a decision I made, and right now I'm doing very minimal music stuff. So I definitely turned my path around for sure.
Yeah, and I like I know there's probably still those times you want to jam out or whatnot. I know I do. Like even this morning, I woke up like I did my morning ritual. If you can all guess what that was, and then I just, I just started playing some instrumentals because I just felt like writing something, getting something off my chest. But then it was right back into the news, and it consumed me again. So
Yeah. Yeah,
it's
the news will definitely suck you in for sure.
yeah, man, or of this alternative information. And I see
Yeah.
you have a site. I mean, besides unveilingthetruth.com, I see you founded the World Public Union.
Yeah.
Am I correct about that?
Yes.
All right,
I started that in 2011, actually, after waking up fully. At that time, I really knew what was going on, and I was connecting a lot of the puzzle pieces together, and I learned a lot about the way things were operating. So I felt it was, instead of just making movies and videos and talking about this with people and trying to spread awareness, I would actually do something about it, and started the World Public Union and developed the idea with a few friends of mine. And we implemented a Facebook networking database essentially, but then Facebook didn't like that because we were reaching so many people. They shut us down pretty much, and that's when we really started to see on the internet a lot of these spam blockers and people's posts not showing up and all that kind of stuff. That's one thing we noticed actually, like right after, it's 2011, early 2012 when we were doing that. So I think around that time, you also noticed Facebook strictening their rules, I guess, and their outreach,
yeah,
because people
they
realized it was a good tool.
yeah, they definitely were. I actually I lost an account around that time, so I definitely
Yeah,
know what you're talking about
there was
with
a
that.
mass awakening going on, and people were taking to Facebook to spread the information and build their networks, and
Yeah.
that's why we. It took me a couple of years, but there's a website now, World Public Union .org, and I put that website up. It's very hard for me to keep up to date with everything else I'm doing, but I do try. But essentially, that website was a way to get it off Facebook because they were blocking us so much. We needed an external source, like a main source, a main hub where people could go for that, rather than getting blocked off Facebook or getting their accounts hacked for joining up. Because I've heard from a lot of people on Facebook that when they started a group or they've joined a group, they've been hacked, or they just, all these weird things start happening. So then they unlike the page and get rid of it so that it doesn't have any problems. So that's another thing too, is that's pretty bad about it, I guess, is the suppression.
Right. Yeah, they definitely do that. And I mean, it's known that they have it rigged now that if someone likes a page, um like truth pages and things like this, that if they don't like anything on your page for a certain amount of time or share something on your page, then it automatically unlikes your page unless they physically change the setting. So it's, and who's gonna think to change the setting? Like, people don't read the privacy things in the beginning when they sign up for Facebook. What makes you think they're gonna read the settings for when you like pages? So it's
Yeah.
completely rigged.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. It's CIA book, really, is what it should be called.
Yeah,
I mean, everything you put in there, they track. That's why they're. You've also seen the website develop, and now it's like it
yeah,
wants to know when you were born, all the pictures that you put up from whenever age you were, going to that year, so they could essentially have a book on each person that agrees with that stuff, I guess.
that the cops can use, and then use it
Yep.
against you. Actually, I always bring this up when I talk about Facebook and the privacy. I had a meeting with the chief of police a couple months ago here in Kenosha, and when I got there, he had one of my Facebook comments on his desk that an anonymous person had sent to him within the police department, apparently. So I don't, they monitor it. He said he had never heard of me before. He had got it right before I, went into the meeting with him. I don't know, he could have just been surfing my Facebook page or whatnot, but I don't think he would lie about an anonymous person sending him a comment, because it was basically something around the lines of Jerome isn't the one, bringing in the drugs and selling them on the corner of 60th here in Kenosha, where it's a high minority population, where majority of the police are. So
Mm.
basically, I was just coming at their drug war. But I want to shift gears a little bit because the main focus I wanted to deal with today was on the fluoride, because you released fluoride cease and desist. And I mean, what gave you the idea to do the documentary on fluoride? Because I mean, so many people cherish it like it is golden. So
Yeah. Um, well, fluoridation is definitely an issue that's affecting a lot of people. Americans especially, they have heavy fluoridated populations there in America. Here in Canada, it's slowly getting taken out, community by community. We're down to about 32% fluoridation of the population here in Canada, which is pretty good. But at the same time, I know that it was wrong, So I got involved locally in the fight to get rid of it from our community, and quickly discovered that it's not a public vote, that it's city councilors that vote it. It's a group of people within the government that vote whether it's in the water or not. And anybody who just scratches the surface a little tiny bit in the fluoridation issue will find out that fluoridation is it's what they're using is hydrofluorosilicic acid, which is a byproduct of the phosphate aluminum industry, and they're selling waste, toxic waste essentially, to different communities that are fluoridating their water. Also, they're putting sodium fluoride from China into a lot of local water supplies, which is a poison, a known poison. So they're poisoning us, and people are saying, oh, it's good for your teeth, but really when you're swallowing the water, it's going to other tissues in your body and has severe health problems, and as well as problems with your brain. It attacks your brain as well. After knowing all this stuff, I definitely wanted to get involved locally to get it out of the water supply. And when I learned that it was not a public vote, we could only influence the councilors to vote whether it's good or bad. Really, that's all the public can do. So I wanted to do something about it to kind of show people that this is what you got to do to get it out of your water supply locally. You can't protest. You can't just go and gather people up and with signs and stuff. It's good for spreading awareness, yeah, but the bottom line is you got to get in with the councilors and influence them to make the decision to take it out. Now, a lot of these councilors are bought out by the industries, or they're miseducated is really what it is. And I met a gentleman who came to my town here in Sudbury named Peter Van Kolart, who is the director of the Environmental Training Institute in Ontario here, which essentially trains people for water treatment, for putting fluoridation chemicals in the water and stuff. And he discovered that it was harmful, that he was duped and lied to essentially by the education system that taught him. So he's been on a journey, I guess, getting rid of fluoridation from local communities' water supply, and he has a pretty high successful rate, a lot of victories under his belt here in Canada. And because of that, when he was here, I wanted to take advantage of that and get an interview with him to get a lot of the information about that he was offering to try to present it in a documentary film. And he actually went and did a presentation to our city council here in Sudbury, and we went out for dinner one night, and had some drinks at a restaurant here locally, and kind of had a meeting with a few people and discussed how we would get rid of it. And there was a little bit of a campaign going here where a few people were involved. It wasn't anything huge, but eventually when the vote came, it still was in the water. So I pretty much sat on that. This was in June of last year. It was June of last year. It was right before I left on the March of Freedom that I met with him and did the interview. And after doing the interview, I just, it took a while for me to get it out. I only recently posted the video and edited it and made it a documentary format. But doing so, I learned so much just through doing the interview with him, and then doing a lot of background research on my own. I started tying in eugenics connections with, especially in Canada. The guy who started putting fluoride in the drinking water here in Canada, he was the president of the Eugenics Society of Canada, and I've included that information in the film. There's a lot of information that was presented in the film to try to educate people on what it really is, the health effects, using new science that's been proven, that outdates the old science, essentially. It proves it all wrong, and fluoride is not good if you ingest it. That's the bottom line. You're not supposed to be putting it in your body and drinking it. If you brush your teeth, okay, it still gets absorbed into the tissues in your mouth by doing so. But at least if you're brushing it, you're not swallowing it and you're not digesting it and all that stuff. So that's the main thing. And in the documentary, I wanted to show people how to get rid of it on a local level with providing everything in one film, like all the facts, the history, and the process of how to get rid of it. So that was the main things I focused on for that documentary.
Awesome, man. And I mean, me personally, just dealing here locally with the steps that you have to take to try to get it out of the water. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous, and it is the council that you're dealing with. And a lot of these people, actually, every single person that I've talked to on the council here in Kenosha, Wisconsin, had no idea at all. And I mean, one or two of them, just because I know them personally, they have a slight interest, but it's still not enough to where I feel like I have the support that we could get this done. And I
Hmm.
mean, I've talked to the general manager of the water facility. And it's just it's wild, the how some of these people approach you and how they talk to you when you try to mention it to them. Like I mentioned it to, like I was saying, the general manager of the water facility utility here in Kenosha, and he was basically, he said, "Oh, well, at first, he didn't. He was like, he was shook when I approached him, and then I mentioned fluoride, but I kind of eased it onto him instead of being like, we need to get the fluoride out of the water, whatever, whatever, whatever." He said, he like, he said, "Thank you for not sounding crazy, because everyone that always talks to me about this issue sounds crazy," which I don't see why he would use that terminology to me personally,
Hmm.
just to, I guess he just wanted me to know that he discredits everybody that brings this topic to him. But still, he said there was really nothing you could do, because I'd have to get like 10,000 signatures or something. I had to get 10% of the population to sign a petition for them to even bring it up to the board for the council to vote on it.
Hmm.
So like here in Kenosha, I almost feel like I'm you know, in a situation where it has to be so vocal to get it changed, and there's really, it's going to be a long step. But I mean, with documentaries like fluoride cease and desist, with the solutions and things like this in the documentary, at least we have these tools to bring out, to show people, and at least start there.
Yeah, like I would suggest anybody who wants to get fluoride out of their community's water supply and have an influence on the councilors, if you know a councilor in your city council, um, you know, uh, bring a copy of the documentary and give it to them and slip it on their desk, or talk to them about it and say, here, watch this. There's scientific facts in here that prove that it's not good for us. And, here you go. Like, do with it what you want. But that's what we have to do. We have to influence the councilors because they, in the end, have the vote. So it's not up to the public, unfortunately, which is very. I don't think that's right. But what's interesting to point out too is what we have going on in my community now. We've just had a recent change of authority, I guess you could say, on who's heading or spearheading the fluoridation campaign here locally in Sudbury, and the gentleman that's doing that has gathered a lot of information, proving that there's health effects involved with this, and the documentary I made will definitely help prove that. But he's he's I think he's going to be doing some like legal action, taking legal action against the city for poisoning people and mass
Right.
medicating them without their consent because it
Right.
is a criminal act,
And
and that's what we need to understand.
I mean, a lawsuit will get their attention. And I mean, I'm personally, that I was thinking would be possibly the only thing that you could really do to get their attention. Because I was thinking, like, how could we get attention to even things like GMO, fluoride? We could all file a lawsuit against McDonald's for poisoning us without our knowledge, and then displaying like it was okay when it's really not, because we didn't know. Because I mean, that's how law works. If you don't know, but they know, you don't know, and they still allow you to do it, then you find out afterward, you're liable to sue them. And they've been putting fluoride in our water for over 50 years. There's Harvard research that says that it's poison. They still don't want to take it out after it's come out. So then
Yeah.
you have to be sued. And I mean, it would be great to see even 10 people per city to file a lawsuit. I mean, that would be more than enough. Even if one or two people per city filed a lawsuit, it would be enough. But they
Yeah,
need
it'll
to
get the
know.
ball rolling.
Yeah, but they definitely have to know that we want, if they don't get it out, we'll lock them up or
Yeah,
worse.
yeah. That's why I named the film Fluoridation Cease and Desist, because the act of fluoridation, we need to not only cease it, but we also need to desist it. We also need to make it illegal for these people to poison the water supply and add medication to it without our consent. I mean, it's common sense. We're living in the year 2014. We should know this by now, and a lot of the newer science outdates the old science. Like you have all these people, like there's been debates since the 50s to determine whether it's harmful or good, and there's been a lot of people that have protested against it. But the dental association, the communities, the heads of the communities, and the medical associations, and all these powerful ABC alphabet soup groups, they're all the ones who are advocating for it to be kept in the water supply throughout the years. So they have resources, they have financial aid backing them, they have power, and they have connections and stuff like that. So that's why it's been allowed to stay in the water supply. But the thing is, if you look at the new science, you could look at people like Declan Wall from Ireland, who determined that where in the Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland at a time, one was fluoridated, the other was not. And he did the statistical research and health tests on these two different populations and determined that the ones that were fluoridated had significantly and noticeably higher health rates of cancer and all sorts of, really common diseases and illnesses. So you have Declan Wall's research, then you have Rudolf Zeigelbecker's research. You have a lot of people's research now that prove that it's got health effects. Even in the early days, Dr. Dean Burke was also looking into the cancer rates, and he came up with some compelling facts proving that fluoridated, non-fluoridated, significant health risks, big time. So get it out of there. And the problem is, it's still happening to this day, which goes to show that there is not a lot of proper education in the matter, I think.
Right. And I mean, it's everywhere. There's fluoride everywhere. I mean, one prime example is they used to use it as pesticide. They don't anymore. They want to bring it back. It's a pesticide it's a restricted use pesticide. I come from a horticulture background, so I know about these things. It's restricted. You're supposed to wear a full suit to apply this, goggles, gloves, boots, the whole shebang to apply this on crops because it's poisonous basically.
Yeah.
It's a poison. If you inhale it, there could be bad things that happen to you. So they took it off the market completely, on the shelf. You can't buy it anywhere anymore. Completely phased out until recently they've been talking about bringing it back. But that's the same exact stuff. It's just sodium fluoride, and that's the same thing that they casually have been putting in the water. But they took it all. You can't use it as a pesticide, but you
Yeah.
can still consume it.
Yeah, it's absurd, really. It's in food because a lot of the factories that are making this food are using fluoridated water to use to make the food. It's in a lot of alcohols. Most alcohols actually have fluoridated water, unless it's made in Europe and non-fluoridated areas. But a lot of these bottling factories and stuff like that do use fluoridated water in their products. It's in teas. Fluorine compounds are in Teflon. There's all sorts of outlets for the use of fluoride, and it's really not good for you. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out the health risks associated with it. So,
Right. Yeah, and now look, let's talk about some of these diseases because we know about the dental fluorosis, we know about the skeletal fluorosis, the bone cancers. There's so many different things that can be caused by this fluoride. I mean, neurological diseases, all sorts of things. And it's just, I can't understand how people can't put two and two together.
Hmm.
We've been seeing the increase. Take all of the hip replacements and things people have been having. Okay, now this was brought to light by me. I did an interview with a gentleman from here in Wisconsin by the name of Joseph Kexel on my old blog talk radio show, and he basically was saying, since we know with the fluorosis and the skeletal fluorosis, your bones get brittle because you're just storing fluoride inside of your bones.
Hmm.
And once your bones get brittle, then they break easy, right? And there's if you check the statistics since they've started fluoridation, the rate of deaths due to hip replacements and hip related deaths has skyrocketed because once your hips are brittle, you fall one time, your hip's broken. I mean, you might have 10, 15 years to live after that if you're lucky, if you recover the proper way, and that's with all-star rehabilitation. So, I
Hmm.
mean, it's leading to all of these things that people are feeling like it's not related, but we have to look back. All of these things are related. All of these different mortality rates, all of these heart problems, all of these, Alzheimer's, all of these different things that are happening to us. It can all be traced back to this fluoridation.
Yeah. Yeah, you notice that as soon as fluoride is added in the water, and also mass vaccinations
Hmm.
is another link to the increase in health rates, cancers, psychological problems,
Hmm.
nervous problems.
Yep.
There's all sorts that could be attributed to around the same time frame because the polio vaccine was administered, I believe, shortly after fluoridation began. But the fluoridated communities actually it started in 1945, so it did eventually spread throughout the United States and Canada as well after 1945. So it was up to the communities to decide to do it, and a lot of them were talked into it using false science, manipulation, lies, and deception, probably payoffs too, and also advancements in positions. If you notice that all the early fluoride fathers, I call them, they all received significant, pay increases. They were promoted to higher positions. They joined all these major medical and dental groups and became high ups and authoritative figures. So it's insane.
Yeah, and it's like follow the money in any case when you're dealing with the truth. Follow the money, see what happens. Okay, these guys are basically nobodies. They start backing fluoride, and now they're chairman of the ADA or well, all of these different ABC groups that we talk about, and that's how it goes. And it's clear, it's obvious what happens, and that's kind of what gets frustrating dealing with the stuff that we deal with because a lot of it once you get into it, it's just so apparent that it's like it's ridiculous that no one, that people don't see it.
Yeah, for sure. And it is really the power of this whole thing does lie in educating each other about it and discussing it and showing people the facts and the information that's needed to for them to understand that it is a harmful thing. So it's good that we're talking about this on this show. It's good that people can watch this later and share the information with their friends. Even the documentary, share the documentary. There's tons of information about fluoride on the internet. You've got great sites like fluoridealert.org.
Yeah,
You
that's a
have
real good one.
yeah, and then you have Cough CA for Canadians, cof-cof.ca. That's a great site for Canadians, and there's lots of resources on those websites to assist the average person to take control of the situation and get involved in the fight to get it removed from their community's water supply. So it really is in education, educating each other, where we're going to see an increase in communities ceasing fluoridation, for sure.
Yeah, and you mentioned fluoridealert.org. They definitely, I get alerts to my email from them, and I mean, they've been doing what they've had to do. Definitely making change. They always post, the municipalities that end fluoridation. I mean, they get more and more cities every year. So as long as we all just keep at it, we have lists, we have contacts of people we can contact if we need support. All of it are on that website. You know, you can contact us. I'm sure you know a few people you can direct people to. I know a few people we can direct people to. So we can make it happen. We just got to communicate and we got to band together. Because, I mean, that's one thing that I feel happens because it's such a hard task that we can get a few people together, but after we get together, we start to fizzle out. So I've been thinking of trying to start some sort of just I don't know, some sort of coalition or something where we can have like a big day. You know, like how they had the March on Monsanto and all of these things.
Yeah,
We need to have a day like that for fluoridation
absolutely.
because you know people need to know. And this, I mean, fluoride is a big step. If we can get fluoride out of the water nationwide, we can definitely win this war because it dumbs you down. It makes you
Yeah,
docile. It makes you not want to fight. So if we can get it out of the water completely, we'll have twice as many numbers than we have already. So I mean, that's why I try to tell people this is like the most important thing. Honestly, like GMO is horrible. GMO needs to stop. But people will not even care about what GMO is until we get the fluoride out of the water because they don't care because they're so docile from having the 1.1 part per million or sometimes even more. We just got it reduced here 2 years ago, a year and a half ago in Kenosha to 1.1 part per million, and that's what the Nazis were using. It was more than that before. I believe it
uh,
was like 4 points, 4 point parts, 4 parts per million or something like that. It was super high, but people came out. People wanted to fight. They didn't want to bring it up on the initiative to get it out, so they just lowered it to make people happy. But you know, it's a step, but we still need it gone completely.
yeah. Like, what needs to happen is it needs to be a law. Like, there needs to be a law to ban fluoride, just like in some parts in Europe it's banned. So we should do that in United States and Canada. Just ban it, outright. If you're putting that stuff into the water supply, you're a criminal. You're going to jail. You will serve time, and everyone's going to know your name and know that you are poisoning them. That's what we need to do. That's the attitude we need to have, really, is we need to realize that and take this for at face value for what it is and approach it like it's a crime, because it is a crime. And that's what's happening in my community now, is because they voted to keep it in the water. Now we're taking it to the next level. So,
Yeah, and definitely like, and that we have to have them show their colors too. Like you said, now that they voted to keep it in the water or to put, now people know the evidence is here. You
yeah,
see the evidence. We see the evidence. You don't care about the evidence. Now you're fucked. I'm sorry, excuse my language, everyone, but now you're fucked because because we see you now. So you're either not getting reelected, or you will get reelected, and someone just might take justice into their own hands somehow. You never know, man. People are people, and they will do what they have to do, and not
yeah,
everyone is, no one, not everyone's like us. Some people might get mad and might want to get back at you. So they need to know about this stuff. They need to know
yeah,
that we see them and we're going to keep on exposing them.
yeah, absolutely. And that's it right there. Like, there's going to be some people out there that are really, once they learn the truth, they're not going to be happy about that truth that they learn, and they're gonna want to take it to the next level, especially if they're going to continue fluoridating.
Yeah.
It's not a good
It's
thing.
It's my grandma used to say you pissed in my face and told me it was raining, and that's what it is. They're
Yeah,
they're putting fluoride in our water and telling us it's good for us, man, and
yeah.
it's not all right, man.
There's all sorts of things that they're doing, though, for the soft kill agenda, as I call it. I mean, they got the fluoridation, the GMOs, you got the chemtrails, you
Yeah.
got the all sorts of these issues that are coming up, and you also have like cellular transmitter issues as well with the cell phones. I mean, there's studies that they've done where they show the cell phone when somebody's using it against their head, like they use thermal, like infrared. When they take the thing away, there's a huge red glowing spot on their face, on the side of their head where the cell phone was, and on their hand. indicating radiation burns,
Yep.
and that's going right to your brain.
Yep. Yes,
So
it
that's
is.
another crime right there. And even I got this document here. It even says some insurance analysts have stated that EMF exposure, that's what it is, EMF from cell phones, could be our next asbestos. In fact, lawsuits are taking place all over the world. Companies like Lloyd's of London are no longer covering long-term health issues for telecom companies. So
Wow.
that's starting to get exposed now
Yeah,
too.
it's and I mean, me personally, like I now that like I've been avoiding putting my cell phone up to my head for about 2 years, and I have this headset, these headphones that came with my iPhone, and I just use that. And I think that's kind of their loophole because if they give you the
Yeah,
headset, you can't sue them, because they gave you the headset. Why didn't you use the headset? But there are phones that don't come with the headset that just want you to put it straight up to your head,
yeah.
and you know, just radiation. And like I was saying before, I slightly got off track. I never put it up to my head, but there's been a couple times where I didn't have my headset with me and I put my phone up to my head, and immediately after I got off the phone I had a headache. Like a horrible headache that
Yeah.
was with me for the rest of the day, and it sucks, man. And like after you do it so many times, of course, it's not gonna, you're gonna have that slight resistance, but you're still frying your brain, and you might not get the headaches all the time, but they're gonna come back, and they might come back in the form of a tumor. And I mean, who wants to have a brain tumor, man? Just to talk on the phone, like,
Yeah. I don't use a cell phone anymore. Thankfully, I'm not subscribed or anything like that,
see,
which is good. I just use
that's
mine
awesome.
for keeping notes and listening to music as a music player with headphones. But other than that, I don't have a cell phone or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, I didn't know about that stuff before a couple years ago, and then I learned about it. It's like, whoa, I'm glad I don't have a cell phone.
Yeah, right. And then on top of that, there's the whole tracking you in lifetime, and
Yep.
like
It's
there's
an all-in-one device for the new world order. The
yeah,
cell
man,
phone gives you
Telecommunications
gives you
Act in
radiation.
'96.
Yeah, it gives you radiation. They could track you on a video and they can record your conversations and they can get all your information and data. And then they also allow you to install apps on it so that they could track all your apps and what you're doing all the time.
Yep.
So,
Oh, what are you into, huh?
yeah.
Your Snapchat. Now we got all your Snapchat pictures on file and all that, all this cool stuff that everybody likes to trendily do.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's crazy. I'm not sure. I'm sure you've seen it actually. Probably the Jesse Ventura conspiracy theory episode on the fusion centers. Yeah,
Oh
that's
yeah.
yeah, they got those things for sure, and they're tracking everything we do. Definitely
I th-
everything that they can.
I think it's I can't remember what state. It's somewhere out west. I think it's like Oklahoma or something. But they have one of the representatives or senators or someone has written legislation to stop supplying water to the fusion center, so they can't cool down their servers. So basically, they're not going to supply water, so it won't work. So
Huh.
they're trying to cut off the ties because basically they're saying if the NSA is going to openly spy on us, we're not going to. Why would we supply you with the things you need to spy on us? What kind of sense does that make? So I
Yeah.
mean, luckily we're getting some people out here that I mean, if you believe in the political system for what it is, I mean, I agree with it some ways. In some ways, I also feel that it's kind of just a facade. But I mean, in a way, people are trying to at least bring it out to the public. And if as long as we can keep bringing things up in the public, even if they keep on swatting them down, as long as we keep on bringing it up, the people will know about it, and then they'll swat it down the one time where we won't take it anymore, and then we'll finally change it ourselves. So,
Yeah. I mean, I can't wait for the day, and I don't think I'm going to see this in my lifetime personally. But I really can't wait for the day when our children can grow up in a world where we look back at all this stuff and go, what? It's just like a documented fact in a history book. It's history. It's gone. Like we've learned about the fluoridation, the GMOs, and all this stuff, which is one thing I think they might even be doing. Generation X, the experimentation generation. They're going to experiment on us with all the things that they're going to be using in the future. Nanotechnology, vaccinations, you name it. I think we're just a bunch of lab rats in an experimental era where we're being used, and that's why they're fighting so hard to keep uh, giving us GMOs and radiation and all this stuff.
Right.
Uh, you look at all these mad scientists from the military and the government and stuff who are involved in these projects, like Harold Hodge injecting plutonium into people and uranium and stuff. That was all experimental. You've got like people like Judith Baker who were involved in weaponizing cancer for the government, and there's all these things that they've been doing to experiment. And it's once people see this, I mean, I just can't wait for the day that it's all eradicated, all this stuff is stopped, and it's not happening anymore, and that people will not allow it to happen ever again. So.
Yeah, definitely, man. Me too. The day will come. Hopefully, it will be in our lifetime, man. I say we got at least a good, at least the way technology's going, we can always fuse with cyborgs. So we might be here forever, man. I know I won't be, but
Yeah. Yeah, RoboCop. That's in the
RoboCop.
theaters now to implant that into people's minds about the cyber race.
Yeah, yeah. It's not going to be us. It's just going to be those that serve the system. But you
Yeah.
know, it'll be out there. You see? Did you see about the implantable microchips by 2020?
Uh, like RFID chips
No, like
implanted in?
basically, we will be able to implant micro. Instead of having a cell phone, we will have a microchip in our brain that we could just basically bring. It'll be like Google Glass, except it'll
Yeah,
be inside of our head by 2020. So I mean, who
it's
knows,
coming. Yeah,
man? We are,
it's
but
coming for
we are
sure.
the guinea pigs. And like you were saying though, to bring it back to the fluoride and the chemtrails and all of that, how it's basically almost like a giant science experiment. I don't know if you know anything about HARP at all,
Yeah,
but it's almost like they're trying to, with the geoengineering. I stumbled upon like this brief documentary on how the aluminum and barium salts they fuse together to make these fibers, and these fibers are basically nanites. I don't know if you've
yeah.
ever seen the little white fibers that randomly appear. They look like little white hairs. I see them
Yeah.
all the time randomly
What
on
are
my
those called? Mel starts with an M. On the
what's
tip of my tongue. The
Man, what is it?
worms.
The worms, the gross, yeah, that stuff. But basically, I see.
Mechelon, not Mechelon. I can't remember the
Oh,
name. But
Magellan.
yeah,
Yeah,
Magellan. Yeah,
Magellan. I see Freedom in the chat helped us out with that. Yeah, Magellan.
nice. And yeah, like they found like barcodes on one. Apparently, that's
Hmm.
what one of my guests told me on a show. He said that they pulled one out and they found a barcode on one of them. So that's definitely evidence of nanotechnology there,
Right, and
for
if
sure.
they're fusing that inside of our bodies, say they use the harp, which is on record, they could use it for mind control and all of these sorts of different technologies. Say they can't just can take control of our bodies after
Mm.
we've been infused with these nanites that they told us weren't real. So I mean,
Oh yeah,
it might be out there, but I mean, I'm just trying to connect some dots, man, and that's just kind of it just kind of seems that way, man. They're not going to
yeah.
tell us about it. They put it in our food. They put it in our water. All of these things that help feed it to shut down our biological body and make the bionic body or whatever the nanites stronger and more adaptable to be able to take over and connect with us. So I mean, it's
Yeah.
weird. All of this stuff is wild, but it's weird, wild people that are doing it.
Yeah.
So
This is what the taxpayer dollar is funding.
yes.
Really, is that what it is? I mean, it's our money that's paying for all this stuff, and they're just doing it and not telling us about it. And then they get busted years later, and they wait for all these old guys to die. You know what I mean? They wait for them to die off, and then they say, "Okay, yes, we poisoned 2 million people." Yeah,
What
that's
do
the way
you
it is.
guys care though? It was
And the
three
weather
generations
modification
ago.
thing too, like people don't believe that stuff's real even still to this day, and it's mind blowing because in Vietnam they used cloud seeding to flood the roadways, which was just pumping moisture into the clouds so that it would rain. And that's why in Vietnam you see tons and tons of rain. Also, they're spraying Agent Orange all over the place over there, which has affected their babies. Now they're all mutated.
Still today.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like the rain flooding all this stuff into the soil. It's just they're experimenting then too, and
Yeah. They were like,
Uh,
okay, that worked that way, so let's infuse it with all of the crops in America and feed it to everyone.
yeah, it's brutal, you know. But one thing that's interesting, like personally, anyways, when I was younger, and I still am. I have to admit, it's my guilty pleasure, I guess you could say. And people might think I'm a nerd for this. I don't know, but I've been really into GI Joe since I was a kid. You know, I loved the show. I loved all the figures and like
Right.
the equipment that they had and all this stuff. But recently, like after learning about all this conspiracy stuff and digging deep, I've been rewatching all the episodes, and
Mm.
sure enough, it's all in there in the
Yeah.
80s. The weapon technology that Cobra was developing,
Yeah.
weather modification devices, microchips, bionic humans, the BAT, battle android
Yeah,
troopers.
man.
They're like half human, half cyborg soldiers. All this stuff was in the G.I. Joe series cartoon. You could look it up. Even the reptilian race in the G.I. Joe, the
All
movie from
mass
1987.
conditioning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So they
man.
had it was all in there, and I didn't know it at the time when I was young. I was just watching it for the show. But now that I'm looking back at it, it's like, holy, this is all there. Like even He-Man, Masters of the Universe, you know, like he's got the Iron Cross on his chest, the genetics, he's an Aryan, blonde hair, blue eyes, like it's all
Yeah, I mean,
there.
it was Arnold Schwarzenegger played him in the
Yeah.
movie, so I mean,
And his father was an SS, and you had to be a eugenics supporter, and have to prove your German heritage for 3 generations if to become an SS member. So
mm,
his father was there. I mean,
purest
it's
of the
there.
pure, and then he was governor of California, and now I believe they're not going to stop trying to make him president. He will be one day, hopefully, if they get their NWO way, but hopefully that won't happen because we're here to stop that BS. But Mark, I do want to say thank you, man, for joining me. We only got about 2 minutes left. I want you to just take some time, let everybody know how they can contact you, how they can get a hold of your documentaries, how they can view your documentaries, all that good stuff.
Yeah, for any of my documentaries, if you want to watch them all free online, most of them are available on my YouTube channel. Just type in Mark Howitt on YouTube and subscribe to the channel. I think my channel's been frozen. I've got about 13,397 subscribers, and that's been stuck on that number for a week. So I don't know. Something's going on there. Obviously, they always mess with my YouTube account,
Mm.
but that's how you can check out the documentaries. Also, unveilingthetruth.com. I do a show here on the Truth Broadcast Network. Check out the show. And you can also get videos on that site as well, on the YouTube channel, Unveiling the Truth.
Awesome, man. Well, Mark, again, thanks, man. I appreciate you joining me, man. It was a great
Thanks for having
talk.
me on.
Yeah, man. Anytime, we're gonna have to do it again sometime soon, man.
Yeah, and
Definitely.
also, Koerri will be on Unveiling the Truth as a guest too in March. So
Oh
stay tuned for
yes,
that as well.
yes. Stay tuned. Truth Broadcast Network. That's just what we do, man. We're just trying to get the
Guerrilla
truth out.
Broadcasting.
Yes,
Right on.
always. Yep. In the face of adversity, we do not give three shits. We're just gonna have to tell the truth, man. So again, Mark, thanks for joining me. You have a great night, man.
You too, brother.
All right.
Peace.
Yep. Good seeing you. All right. So there goes Mark Howard. It was a great broadcast. Thanks everybody for joining me. Everybody in the chat, you already know you're great. Make sure you check out theaverageliberator.com, truthbroadcastnetwork.com. We're in the last few seconds here. I'll be back tomorrow live, same time, 11 p.m. Central Time. It was a great talk, man. Fluoride. This will be up on the YouTube channel. You already know. Make sure you subscribe to that. Follow me on Twitter. Like the Facebook page, The Average Liberator. I'm Koerri Washington. I'm out. Liberate yourselves. Peace.